Hey everybody, this is Andre here with the Kevin Breeze channel, and in this video, we're going to be doing a comparison between the T-Mobile Revvl 4 Plus and the OnePlus Nord N100. So the T-Mobile Revvl 4 Plus has a 6.52-inch LCD display with a resolution of 720p, a PPI of 269, and an aspect ratio of 20:9. The OnePlus Nord N100 has a 6.52-inch 90Hz IPS LCD display with a resolution of 720p, a PPI of 269, an aspect ratio of 20:9, and a screen-to-body ratio of 82.9%. So although they have the same size display, the T-Mobile Revvl 4 Plus does look quite a bit bigger, and that's because the bezel is significantly thicker. So with a thinner bezel, the OnePlus Nord N100 has a much nicer, more modern look. Now the T-Mobile Revvl 4 Plus has a water drop for the front-facing camera. This camera is 16 megapixels. And the OnePlus Nord N100 has a hole punch for the front-facing camera, and this camera is 8 megapixels. Now I like the hole punch look a lot better. I think it looks a lot cleaner, whereas with the water drop, it looks a little out of place. It doesn't look as clean. And really the design doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. Just this extra little blob coming off of the bezel just makes the overall top of the phone look a little bit messier. And it makes the bezel look thicker in itself too, which doesn't really help with the look of the phone in my opinion. It makes it look a little bit older, whereas the hole punch makes it look cleaner and more modern. So as far as the aesthetics go of these two designs, I would give it to the OnePlus Nord N100. I think that overall, aesthetically, this phone does look a lot better. Both of these phones have 64 gigabytes of internal storage with microSD card expansion. This is a pretty decent amount of storage. To put this into perspective, entry-level iPhones start out at 64 gigabytes themselves, and iPhones are not only a lot more expensive than these phones, but they also don't have microSD card expansion. So with those phones, you're stuck with 64 gigabytes, whereas with these phones, you can use a microSD card if you have a lot of photos and videos and that sort of thing that are taking up space. And it's really a great way to expand the storage without actually getting into the phone's internal storage, where you might want to put larger apps like games and that sort of thing. Now, neither of these phones have wireless charging, but they both have fingerprint scanners and face unlock. Both methods of unlocking your phone are really convenient, and it's nice to have both because in some situations, one of them might work better than the other. So if you have both, then you're never gonna have to actually put in the PIN because you'll always have another option. With both of these phones, the fingerprint scanner is located right here. This spot's really nice, easy to reach, no problem with that. We're gonna test these out and see how well they perform. Starting with the fingerprint scanner of the T-Mobile Revvl 4 Plus. All right, nice. One more time. There we go. Really fast and responsive. No complaints there. Testing out the fingerprint scanner for the OnePlus Nord N100. There we go. So you may have noticed during the second tries on both of these phones, I did place my finger in a weird spot that you would think might be a little bit harder to read, and both of these phones actually did pick up on that really easily, and the fingerprint scanner still worked really well. No issues, no matter where I actually put my finger on the scanner. So overall, both manufacturers did a really good job at designing these fingerprint scanners. They work really well with no issues. I don't think that you would go wrong with either of them. Now, taking a look at the camera setup of these two phones, for the T-Mobile Revvl 4 Plus, we got a 16 megapixel rear camera and a 5 megapixel depth sensing camera. No extra features like a macro or ultra wide camera, unfortunately. We just have a regular camera as well as a depth sensing camera to help with portrait mode. For the OnePlus Nord N100, we have a 13 megapixel rear camera, a 2 megapixel macro camera, and a 2 megapixel depth sensing camera. So very similar, except the OnePlus Nord N100 has a macro camera, whereas the T-Mobile Revvl 4 Plus does not. So these pictures were taken with the rear cameras of these two phones. Both of them look really nice. The image is crisp and the colors are well balanced. I would say out of the two, the OnePlus Nord N100 does have a slightly clearer image, whereas with the T-Mobile Revvl 4 Plus, it is a little bit hazy. You can definitely see that in the photo itself. It's a little bit darker and the image is definitely not as full and clear. Whereas with the OnePlus Nord N100, the image is very clear. The lighting is balanced perfectly. The colors are really vivid and overall, it does look a lot more professional. Now, these are images taken with the front-facing cameras of each phone. This one is the T-Mobile Revvl 4 Plus. The front-facing camera on this phone is actually pretty impressive. The image is really crisp, and the brighter colors are a lot more vivid in comparison with the rear camera, where I honestly expected more out of this phone for being a rear camera. But with this front-facing camera, this one is actually really good, and I think the picture in this for a front-facing camera on a more entry-level phone especially is really good. Now, this picture was taken with the front-facing camera of the OnePlus Nord N100. This image is actually a little bit better quality. I think the lighting, again, is just better balanced, and the colors and sharpness are just stronger. The image is a little bit more crisp, the colors are more vivid, and overall, it does look a little bit better. Now, I'm not going to be going over the OnePlus Nord N100's macro camera in this video, since the T-Mobile Revvl 4 Plus doesn't have one. But if you are interested in seeing the OnePlus Nord N100's macro camera in action, then definitely check out the full review of this phone on the channel. For videos, the T-Mobile Revvl 4 Plus is able to shoot in qualities up to 4K in both the front and rear cameras, and the OnePlus Nord N100 is only able to shoot 1080p in both. So overall, camera-wise, from what I've seen, I would definitely say the OnePlus Nord N100 has the edge as far as photos go, but as far as video goes, definitely being able to shoot 4K videos, the T-Mobile Revvl 4 Plus does have an advantage. Now internally, the T-Mobile Revvl 4 Plus is getting 4GB of RAM with a Qualcomm Snapdragon 665 processor, and the OnePlus Nord N100 is getting 4GB of RAM with a Qualcomm Snapdragon 460 processor. We ran Geekbench 5 benchmark tests on both of these phones, and the T-Mobile Revvl 4 Plus came back with a single-core score of 311 and a multi-core score of 1386. The OnePlus Nord N100 came back with a single-core score of 251 and a multi-core score of 1172, so definitely a noticeable difference here. The T-Mobile Revvl 4 Plus is going to be quite a bit faster than the OnePlus Nord N100, not by a whole lot to the point where it's in a different bracket, but definitely something to keep in mind. Both of these phones are going to be great for basic activities like browsing the web and streaming videos and that sort of thing, but the T-Mobile Revvl 4 Plus is going to do it quite a bit better. Since the processor is faster, it'll be able to load content faster, and as far as searching the web, same thing, web pages are going to pull up faster. And if you want to do something more intense like gaming or video editing, then the T-Mobile Revvl 4 Plus is most likely going to have an advantage there, because with a faster processor, something like a game or a video editing app is going to be running faster. To give you a better idea of the speed difference between these two phones based on the processing power, I'm going to do a little demonstration. We're going to start by opening Google Chrome. So clearly, the T-Mobile Revvl 4 did have the speed advantage there. It pulled up Google almost right away, whereas it took a second for the OnePlus Nord N100 to pull up the same web page. Let's try a web page real quick. There, the Nord N100 did have a little bit of a speed advantage over the Revvl 4 Plus. We're going to try one more page. And that time, the Revvl 4 Plus was faster. So as you can see there, it was actually really close, and those couple hundred points of processing power on the Geekbench 5 benchmark test in reality didn't make a whole lot of a difference. I would say overall, if you tried 100 different web pages and compared these two phones, most of the time the T-Mobile Revvl 4 Plus will be a little bit faster, but really not by much. The one thing to take away from this difference in processing power isn't really going to be how fast the phone is browsing the web, but how well it can run apps like a video editing app, for example, or a game, or something like that that does take a little bit more power. And I would say if you're doing that a lot, then the T-Mobile Revvl 4 Plus might be a better option. But at the same time, there's really not going to be anything the T-Mobile Revvl 4 Plus can do that the OnePlus Nord N100 can't do. Now, another difference I do want to point out between these two phones is that the T-Mobile Revvl 4 Plus has NFC and the OnePlus Nord N100 does not. Now, this might be more of a deciding factor for you if you use Google Pay often. Google Pay is becoming a more and more popular and widely accepted form of payment. And especially nowadays, it's really nice to have the option to use Google Pay to make your daily purchases. So not having NFC is definitely a drawback if you do use the feature, because you're missing out on a whole different way of paying that might make your life a lot more convenient. So that is a negative for the OnePlus Nord N100. On the other hand, the T-Mobile Revvl 4 Plus does have NFC, so that is nice. You're definitely going to get that little advantage there. Now, the OnePlus Nord N100 does have a bit of an advantage battery-wise, with a 5,000 milliamp hour battery that supports 18 watt fast charging, compared to the T-Mobile Revvl 4 Plus with a 4,000 milliamp hour battery that doesn't support any fast charging. Now, this is definitely something to think about if you're on the go a lot and don't always have the chance to plug in your phone. The OnePlus Nord N100 is not only going to have better battery life per charge, but also over time as the battery degrades, you're not going to notice it as much with the OnePlus Nord N100 because a bigger battery is going to degrade slower. Whereas with the T-Mobile Revvl 4 Plus, you are going to notice that a little bit more. So overall, the OnePlus Nord N100, in theory, will have more longevity. Now, in conclusion, which one of these devices is better? I would say that in most categories, the T-Mobile Revvl 4 Plus is the better phone, but that is a very close margin, mostly because it has NFC and the processor is a bit faster. But in terms of display, I would say having a 90 Hz display is definitely an advantage in favor of the OnePlus Nord N100. It's going to make the display, graphics, and that kind of thing a lot smoother and a lot more pleasing to the eye, which definitely helps with content consumption. Not only that, but the OnePlus Nord N100 does have a better camera in my opinion. I think the pictures overall are a lot higher quality, unless you're shooting video, of course. In that case, the T-Mobile Revvl 4 Plus would be a better option because it can shoot 4K and the Nord N100 can't. But in terms of photos, the Nord N100 does have an advantage, I would say. Also in the battery, the Nord N100 has a much larger battery that can support fast charging. So at the end of the day, if you're doing more intense activities like gaming or running larger apps in general, then you might benefit from a little extra processing power that the T-Mobile Revvl 4 Plus can offer. Also, if you're shooting videos or if you use Google Pay a lot, the T-Mobile Revvl 4 Plus is going to be the better option for you. But if you're more concerned with having a larger battery and say you do a lot of content consumption, or if you like taking photos and having the best camera is more important to you, then the OnePlus Nord N100 would be a great option for that. But overall, I think these two are both excellent choices at the entry level, and I think that no matter which phone out of the two you get, you won't go wrong with it. Again, for more information about pricing and availability, definitely check the link in the description because pricing and availability is always changing. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to leave a thumbs up and subscribe. And as always, I'll see you guys in the next video.